But most of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ exemplify this in such a beautiful way. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, another example that you could take and that you could, subhanAllah, dissect the beauty of his tazkiyah. Strong, powerful, but subhanAllah, if a young child told Umar radiallahu anhu, fear Allah, his ego never betrayed him. Never betrayed him. Shaytan fled from Umar because Umar radiallahu anhu kicked his ego in the mouth. Figuratively, like his ego had no place with him, therefore Shaytan had no opening with him. So you could tell Umar to fear Allah, Umar radiallahu anhu would fear Allah right away and say, why? What do I do? Right? So his strength was expected of a man of his stature and prominence. But at the same time, he had these qualities that were not expected of a person who had that type of an imposing presence in society. Now, what does this have to do with being a more wholesome Muslim? So we launched this study at Yaqeen, and I'm going to actually invite all of you at some point, inshallah ta'ala, to go on the website, to yaqeeninstitute.org, and take the religiosity quiz at the bottom. You scroll right down, you'll see religiosity quiz, a portrait of your religiosity. It's called BASIC. Belief, attitude, spirituality, institution, contribution. Basic, belief, attitude, spirituality, institution, contribution. What does it speak to? Where did this come from? It was actually a quiz and a methodology, a data methodology that was worked on by Dr. Uthman Omarji, who's here in SoCal, by the way, and some of the scholars that are here. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I just got the 10-minute mark. Brother Nabil, I'm sorry, I'm going to go. All right, inshallah. But they worked on this data collection or a methodology to where, what does it mean to measure the wholesomeness of a Muslim? So I'll give you like practical examples. You might find someone that has great attitudes about their religion. You ask them about Islam and they light up and they say, I love my religion. They don't look the part, they don't pray the part. They're not in the masjid, but you meet this person in public and you ask them about Islam and they light up. They have a great attitude about their religion. They'll defend it against any Islamophobe, right? Attitude is great. Maybe they're lacking in other areas. You have some people that have great spiritual practice, but their spiritual practice is not translating to any level of contribution back to the society, back to community. That's a deficiency. The spirituality part is great, but how do you launch then into the contribution? There are some people that have strong belief in Islam, like their creed is solid, philosophy. They could argue with people, they could do da'wah to people in the park, they could take on people and all types of things, but they're not really practicing Muslims. It's really relegated to the intellectual space because we have a tendency to imbalance. And our lives are an opportunity to try to balance ourselves out to be the most wholesome servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before we meet Him. You might have someone that is BASC heavy, but they don't have a connection to the masjid. And I understand institutions, sometimes masajid are not welcoming. Sometimes you're not finding yourself in a masjid. But you know what? The Prophet ﷺ said the masjid is the home of every believer. Al-masjidu baytu kulli Muslim. Every Muslim, their home is the masjid. Their spiritual home is the masjid. You got to have a place of institution in your life as well. And institutionalizing your good efforts, right? So how do I fill these categories so that I don't meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a great deficiency in any one of them? What do I need to hear? What do I need to start practicing while I build each one of these? Now, every one of us is going to be imbalanced, but we don't want to be imbalanced in a way that we have fundamental flaws that go unaddressed in our personalities. And the worst type of situation that you can be in, or of the worst situations, is when you're actually being betrayed by a good quality that you possess. Meaning what? Every time you think about improvement, you merely think about a good quality that you already have and simply embellishing that good quality further. I'll give you an example. And to Allah belongs the greatest example. So this is different, but just maybe a human one that you can relate to. All right? Parent tells a child, I need you to do this chore by 8 o'clock. Child comes back, doesn't do the chore, says, Mom, I bought you flowers. All right, great. Can you go do the dishes now? I cut the grass. Okay, but can you go do the dishes? I vacuumed the living room. What's happening here? There's a disconnect between what you're supposed to be doing and something that you might be doing that might be good. It is good. It's nice that you vacuumed. It's nice that you cleaned up. It's nice that you cut the grass. It's nice that you did all these things. But you were told to do something very specific and you're not doing it. Now that can become a fundamental and fatal flaw, right? Now, with our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a form of ghurur, deception, delusion. And Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala talks about a very specific type of ghurur here, right? And that is the ghurur of the righteous. So he says, the righteous in quotation marks. So he says, for example, the people that can really get caught up into this, he says, scholars, worshippers, people of tasawwuf, so spirituality, and wealthy people. Now what is he talking about here? He says the scholar might feel a sense of immunity because they teach the religion to the people, and so religion becomes relegated to theory, preaching, telling other people what to do, and the person has no time to practice anything that they are doing. Even worse, لِمَ تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ, intentionally doing other than what they say. Or just not practicing it, letting the hearts rust, not doing anything while telling people how they should be better. And they justify that to themselves by saying, I'm busy. I got to teach the people. And so they live in books and they teach in books and they sleep in books and they never experience Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They might know about Allah, but they don't know Allah. So they're teaching people about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they're not getting into it. And that's a form of delusion. Right? And even worse than that, I can tell you this, that in the culture, and let's not just take scholars and pick on scholars, people of da'wah, people who are of the quote-unquote religious class, in those circles, some of the worst spiritual diseases go completely unchecked. Because when you see a bunch of religious people backbiting, well, they're religious, and so if this person is doing it, then it must not really qualify as ghiba then. And if this person's doing it, this person's doing it, can't really be that corrupt. It's so much more blatant and obvious when it's a bunch of people that are clearly far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about something that distances them from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even the culture that gets created around scholarship and da'wah and things of that sort can be a poisonous one. So ghurur, deception, a fundamental flaw, goes unaddressed. A person might worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a lot. So you could be practicing a major sin, insisting on a sin and having no intention to address it at any point in your life, but you pray extra. You fast extra. Alhamdulillah, you pray qiyam al-layl. That's amazing if you're praying sunnahs as well. That's amazing if you're fasting more than Ramadan. But Allah's not going to ask you on the day of judgment, why didn't you fast Mondays and Thursdays? Or why didn't you pray at night? And you might be developing an arrogance in the process of that. Self-righteousness, looking down upon the quote-unquote sinners. And so delusion, even though what you're doing is good, you need to address the fatal flaw. People of spirituality, and he's speaking about a very particular class of people that think that they have accessed some secret relationship with the divine, to where they no longer need to do the actions that are required of the ordinary. So they've reached an extraordinary status where they no longer even need to do the ordinary practices. And people of wealth, and this is, by the way, very much so, not to pick on rich people, I'm sorry, we love you when you give to the masajid and you give to the institutions, but on a serious note, if you think about where Christianity is going, capitalistic American Christianity is going, right? Write your check to God and you're good. As long as you're putting that check in the bucket on Sunday, you're good. Write your check, right? And we can have a manifestation of that as Muslims. Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah is talking about it centuries ago, where a person feels like, I give charity, and what happens when you give charity? MashaAllah, takbir, Allahu Akbar. Everyone says, MashaAllah, that brother is so generous, that sister is so generous. And they praise and praise and praise and praise. And that person goes home and commits the same sins every day and night, lives in haram, because no one even tells them that what they're doing is haram anymore, because they want them to keep writing those checks. It's not Islam. You don't get to write a check to God and just turn away. You've got the same haram and halal as everybody else. But it can feel that way. And society will even prompt you in that way. And the delusion, hence, will grow. So how do we draw the line? How do we start to come out of this? Well, for one, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah says something very powerful. He says, as for hasanat, good deeds, he said both a righteous person and a sinner is capable of doing good deeds, but no one is able to abandon sin unless they're truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not doing something that Allah tells you not to do is harder than doing something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to do or tells you is good for you to do. Think about this for a moment. It's powerful. Why? Because good deeds resonate with your fitrah, the inherent goodness inside of you, so you feel good when you do good deeds. And so you could sit in that place and you could get very comfortable in that and keep on embellishing your good deeds. Giving charity feels great. Volunteering feels great. Praying feels great. And in the 21st century, there are books being written about this. Religion is being relegated to your latest method of self-care. It's your yoga practice on the side. It's how you feel better about yourself when you go to sleep at night. I said I'm going to make you guys a little uncomfortable. I don't want to be rude here, right? But think about it for a moment, right? So you give enough charity, not to the extent that someone needs it, but to the extent that you need to feel good. So that's the amount that I'm going to allot from my life. I'm going to volunteer, and especially in these disaster zones, look, and my heart is not immune. SubhanAllah, like we go to relief camps, distribution sites, and if someone's carrying around the camera the whole time, there's something that can happen there. So you got your great selfie with the dying refugee and then you just walked away. Something's wrong here. It's the 21st century though. It is a culture that we have. By the way, that doesn't mean that it's not good for people to be filmed in charity, to invite other people to do good. This is just like every other form of charity, but I'm saying if you only do it to the point that it makes you feel good, not to the point that the other person needs, this is what religion is becoming in the 21st century. So you sit in a good place, a place where good deeds make you happy, but you're not abandoning what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to abandon, and that's where true sacrifice comes. And Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah says, even atheists are willing to do many good things because those good things make them feel good. So you'll find atheists that will do good deeds and good actions that give them that sense of joy. But when it comes to sacrifice, no, I'm good. I'm good. So what ends up happening is an imbalance with a fatal flaw in your life, where you're able to come to peace with the existence of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you justify it by saying to yourself, but I do all these other good things. I think I'm okay on the day of judgment. And I heard the khutbah, and the khutbah said that a person who does this good deed and this good deed is great and is going to come on the day of judgment with this way and this way and this way. Yeah, but if you don't address that other stuff, you've got a hole in your bucket and the water is coming through. So you can keep on pouring water in the bucket, or you plug that hole so that the water stops falling through.